Good afternoon. So I'm extremely happy to be here. You're going to have a fabulous panel here with Thomas Abt, who you know from the Kennedy Center and from the Department of Justice, is a great teacher and a great listener. And AT and JT and Sandi, who are frontline workers in the fight against violence. In other words, they are epidemic control workers. I am the founder and CEO of Cure Violence and Cure Violence Global, and my background is World Health Organization, where I help to manage and lead epidemic control efforts against tuberculosis and cholera and AIDS. And I've been asked to frame this conversation. And the only framing that I know is that violence is the only health epidemic that is not being primarily managed by the health sector. It's as if the health people have abdicated to another sector. And what I mean by the health sector is actually the community. And it's a relationship between the health sector, that is to say ordinarily the public health department, and the community and community workers that do the outreach to reach the people, whatever it is, Ebola, cholera, TB, who need to be talked to in order to prevent an event, whether it's a tuberculosis event or a cholera event or an AIDS event or whatever, by reaching people who are at the highest risk. This is the way all epidemics are managed, from the inside out. All other efforts have repeatedly failed throughout the world in all other epidemics. And the reason for this is because of the granular access to the people that these health workers have. In this setting, the health workers are called violence interrupters or outreach workers or hospital responders or behavior change agents or trauma educators. And there's about 9 or 10 of these types of workers in AIDS and similar types of workers in the other epidemics. So what you're about to hear is a conversation with the violence epidemic healthcare workers of today, of which there are thousands now around the country. So I'll leave you to that and look forward to a fabulous conversation. Thank you.
Please welcome our panel on public health solutions to violence, moderated by Thomas Abt, and panelists A.T. Mitchell, James J.T. Timpson, and Sandi Timmons.
Well, it's great to be here. We're here today to talk about the power of public health and the power of prevention. And as we do that, I think it's important that we get specific. Study after study shows that when we look at urban violence here in Baltimore and around the nation, that the problem is highly concentrated among a small network of people. A fraction of a percent of the city's population could be responsible for as much as 40, 50, or 60% of all gun violence. Similarly, with domestic violence, a small number of perpetrators are responsible for the highest risks of victimization. And one thing that we know about violence is that most perpetrators were victims first, and often that victimization starts in the home. So all of these things are related. But as we talk further, we're going to talk about the power of focus and the power of specificity on these highest risk individuals. But before I do that, I want to make a note about this concept of risk and this term high risk. Yes, people at the highest risk for shooting or being shot are at risk, but I think we also need to recognize that these are also people who are high reward, meaning that if we can convince these people to turn their lives around and avoid victimization and stop perpetration, that we can save not just one life, but many. And that these people are also influencers among their networks. And so if they make the right choices, they can persuade their peers, their friends, family, and associates to make the right choices as well. So this work is not just high risk, it's high reward, and it's high impact. And with that, let's meet our panelists, all three of whom are experts in this field, have been on the front lines for years. I'm here with A.T. Mitchell, J.T. Timmons, and Sandi as well. So, Sandi Timmons as well, and J.T., sorry, Timpson. So, I apologize. Let's, so before we get into some of the questions, I'd love to hear just a little bit about you, your organization, and the work that you do. A.T., let's begin with you.
Yes, good morning. So I'm A.T. Mitchell. I'm the founder and executive director for a community-based organization out of Brooklyn, New York, called ManUp Incorporated. We are a 15-year young not-for-profit that is based in East New York, which is one of the most poorest communities, most dangerous neighborhoods in the city of New York. It is policed by the 75th Precinct. I started this organization now after there was unfortunate a shooting of an 8-year-old whose name was Deshaun Hill. And after which we community kind of had to collectively come together. We had to rally around this senseless violence, and we formed this organization. And now today we are fortunate to be one of the premier cure violence global sites in the city, if not around the country, where we have hired a number of credible messengers of people who would be considered high risk, formerly people who have been incarcerated, and we train them to be violence interrupters, hospital responders, and outreach workers, and we deploy them back into the neighborhoods from which they grew up and use their influence to help us keep communities safe.
Thank you, A.T. J.T., tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Timpson, J.T., Director of Safety and Community Partnerships at Roca, Baltimore. At Roca, Baltimore, we have the privilege and the honor of working with high-risk young men who are between the ages of 16 to 24 years old. High risk meaning that they're likely to be either victims or perpetrators of gun violence. What we do is we try to work with these young men to promote behavior change by building strong relationships with them.
Thank you. Sandi, tell us about your work at House of Ruth.
I'm Sandi Timmons. I'm the Executive Director of House of Ruth, Maryland. We are a fully comprehensive service provider. We are the largest in the state of Maryland and among the largest in the country. We provide direct services to victims with a wraparound approach. We provide services not only that involve shelter, but legal services, counseling. We partner with other organizations out in the community to help our clients also receive employment services and other help, so that the approach to providing that is totally comprehensive. We also have another part of the work that we do, and that's intervention. For about 35 years now, we have been working with perpetrators, men who have been using abuse in their relationships. And over these years, we've evolved the program to the place where we are understanding how important it is to address the belief system that they have, to address the factors that they live within that help to support their inclination towards violence. And while we have evolved the program understanding how to motivate people to change, we're now at a place where we need to also understand how to bring in the support system of the community to further enhance the success of changing their behaviors. We also do outreach in the community for prevention work. We believe that it's important to work with people in the community who influence behavior, who influence thinking and belief systems, and provide them with information and tools that allow them to be mobilized and work in support of our work.
Thank you, Sandi. JT, I want to turn to you on this notion of value change, belief change. You know, what does it mean in order to do that when you're working with the highest risk individuals here in Baltimore? What's most important in terms of assistance, treatment, services? What's most important generally, and what's most important to do first?
So I think that one of the most important things, specifically here in Baltimore, is we have to address the trauma. That's number one, is addressing the trauma that's continually suffered by the young men that we service. And then two, we have to increase their capacity for emotional regulation. And we do that by using CBT, where we try to teach them the skills that are vital to keep them alive long enough to make better decisions.
CBT meaning cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah. So we try to teach them the skills that are vital in keeping them alive long enough to make better and different decisions. And then thirdly, I would say that probably building strong relationships, because as we know, behavior change or people change in the context of relationships. So we have to build strong relationships with a lot of these young men who are deemed by society otherwise. We have to build strong relationships with them to help promote and foster the behavior change so that they can understand that there is a segment of the population that really believes in them, that really believes that change is possible, and doesn't want to see them die.
Great. AT, doing this work, you've been doing it for a long time with these highest risk individuals. What does success look like? What does the behavior change and belief change look like, both for the individuals, but also for the community at large?
Well, it starts by a person who's been outcast and been deemed outcast or been segregated, stereotyped. It ends with a person who has been integrated into the society as a citizen, who has all of the rights of a citizen, a tax-paying member of the citizen, a God-fearing person, a job-going, school-attending person that's really out about the overall, society. And, to me, I think that's the beauty of this work, when you can see a person who lost hope in all, in life, and now has a lot of opportunity. Now they can see a future. As far as the community benefits, because we benefit tremendously, because now we can sleep at night. We can rest and ensure that we can go outside into a park and play. Our elders can sit on benches and they can feel without fear of anyone getting shot. To us, it benefits us all, because now those young members are mostly people who are a part of that life, are a part of the community, and that's what we ultimately always want.
I think that's such an important point, that by working with the few, we can actually have benefits that accrue to the many. Absolutely. It's a critical point. Sandi, this work is all related: intimate partner violence, domestic violence, community and urban violence, gun violence. What are you hearing? What are some of the common themes between this work? And based on that recognition that you and your organization have made, how do we start to weave these efforts together? How do we be good allies to one another as we work on different but very closely related issues?
One of the things that we share in common is that people who perpetrate domestic violence, intimate partner violence, very, very often come from a life that includes violence as a child and in the community. So perhaps their fathers, their grandfathers, their uncles have abused women as well. Perhaps the belief system in their culture is such that it's okay to dominate a woman, and this is a form of that domination. So that coming from abuse is often a part of the background of somebody who abuses and perpetrates all kinds of violence. Another, I think, is that there is an underlying belief system that we all need to take care of. We all need to work together to address.
Yeah. So, JT, we were talking in the green room about these issues, and you were saying, behavior change is behavior change, belief change is belief change. Tell me how your approach to this has evolved over time in terms of behavior change.
It's really about paying attention to what's going on. Things have evolved, things constantly change, so your approach and your methods to dealing with the issues and dealing with the individuals has to constantly, you have to be flexible enough to change at any point in time. So really, I think one of the things that we fail to realize is that people who hurt people are missing something themselves. And they need, that needs to be addressed. If we aren't addressing the things that they're missing, then we're missing the point. We have to help them become whole individuals themselves to actually be able to promote that behavior change. So we really focus on the individual and what it is that that particular individual needs to help promote their behavior change that will affect them as well as their families and everyone around them.
Right, and really their impulse to use violence, whether it's out on the street, whether it's at work or in the home.
Right.
Right. So, AT, I want to, we're short on time, so I'm going to ask you the final question. this work is so important. Study after study shows that many of the most focused efforts are often the most successful efforts in terms of reducing particularly urban violence, but also other forms of violence as well. Do you think this work is getting the recognition and support that it deserves? And if not, how can we change that?
So the short answer is absolutely not. We still to date have not gotten the recognition that we deserve in reference to this public health approach to public safety. And I think that the difference is it has to be looked into a lot more into how everybody in the community can be involved. You know, without us extracting individuals or segregating a portion of the community, if we utilize everybody in terms of their benefits, the things that they can bring to the table, a person's influence, for example, in the work that we do, makes a big difference. And so I think we need to take a look at that and see how that helps us kind of collectively benefit as a society.
Let me just prompt you. You said something very interesting about precision in the green room. Yes. Can you tell us that again?
Well, we hear in law enforcement, we hear a lot of talk about precision policing. And, you know, this is where they claim that they really zero in on the people who may be the ones that may be more likely to commit crime. Well, in our work, we like to think of precision resourcing. You know, and if we was to make a wise investment in getting to those persons before crime is committed and being able to address their needs, I think it'd make a big impact.
Great words to end on. Thank you so much.